You drift in stillness. No wind, no sound. Only the deep, steady hush of a universe breathing in silence. Out here, the idea of falling no longer belongs to the earth. Gravity, as you once knew it, something pulling apples and oceans, dissolves into something far softer. You don't fall down anymore. You fall inward. Imagine space not as emptiness, but as a vast, invisible fabric, stretched in every direction. This fabric has texture, subtle and supple, like silk suspended between stars. When something massive rests on it, like a star, or even your own body, the fabric bends. Just slightly. Not torn, not broken. Just curved. A quiet yielding. This is gravity. Not a force reaching out to grab you, but a slope in the space beneath your feet. A bowl where time trickles. Where light itself curves, ever so slightly, around what is heavy. You don't see it, not directly. But you feel its shape in the way galaxies swirl like ink dropped in water. In the way the moon walks the Earth's gentle curve. In the way you breathe, steadily, as the planet cradles you. Now, picture something massive, truly massive. A star far heavier than our sun. Imagine it sitting on this space fabric like a smooth stone pressed into ice. The bend is no longer gentle. It deepens. The fabric stretches tighter, like a hammock pulled to its limit. Time slows near it, and light hesitates. If that star collapses, if its core grows too heavy to hold its own shape, the fold becomes something deeper than a dip. It becomes a well. A dark, bottomless hush. A soft fold so steep that even light cannot climb back out. But we are not there yet. We are only beginning. You float now through this woven fabric, tracing the slow dance of planets and the arcs of light around invisible things. You watch as gravity becomes more than a law, it becomes a language. Mass speaks, and space listens. Space curves, and time responds. Time, yes. That, too, flows differently here. Where the fabric is flat, time moves as you expect. Steady. Measured. But near a bend, time slows. It stretches like warm honey. A second can stretch into a minute, a heartbeat into a wave. It's as though gravity holds not just matter, but the rhythm of the cosmos. A clockmaker, unseen, adjusting every tick. You begin to understand why the ancients looked up in wonder. The stars were not just lamps in the sky, they were part of a great, invisible weaving. And you are inside it, nestled like a whisper in its threads. You pass near a planet. Its curve in the fabric is small, a shallow dip. You feel its pull gently. Not like a tug, but like a thought brushing your mind. Further out, a star's dip is deeper, a more commanding presence. Light curves around it, like ribbons caught in wind. Then you glide past something strange. There is no light, no shimmer. But everything around it bends, space, time, even thought. This is not a star. It is the memory of a star. A place where mass has collapsed into pure curvature. A black hole. It does not reach out. It does not roar. It simply is. A stillness so complete that space itself turns inward around it. Its presence is not violent, but serene in its certainty. You feel its fold, not sharp, not sudden, but patient. It is a part of the fabric now, a quiet place where the threads have gathered too closely to pull apart again. You drift on, watching how this fold changes the dance of everything nearby. Stars orbit it carefully, like dancers tracing steps around an invisible partner. Light curves, then vanishes. Time begins to whisper more slowly, almost imperceptibly, as if uncertain. What would happen if you moved closer? You imagine stepping gently toward it, your body slow and loose in this calm sea. You wouldn't feel a sudden pull. You would feel time lean back. Your seconds would stretch. From far away, someone watching you would see you freeze at the edge, unmoving, like a frame in a film. But from within, you would still feel time flowing. Still breathing, still aware. You would not feel torn, only unraveled, softly, like a thread drawn long. This place, this fold, is not destruction. It is transformation. A memory of mass turned into geometry. An equation written not in ink, but in space itself. And it began so simply, with mass, and the way it speaks to space. You think now of Earth, the blue planet that holds you every night as you sleep. You feel the weight of your body against the bed, and the way gravity doesn't yank you down but cradles you gently toward its center. Even here, in the curve of your mattress, the universe is speaking the same language. Mass tells space how to curve. Space tells time how to flow. And time holds your thoughts as they drift into sleep. You feel small, but not insignificant. Small like a note in a symphony. One part of a great, quiet order. And this is only the beginning. Because if this soft fold can grow deeper, if a star can collapse so completely, then perhaps the next question is not how space curves, but what happens when it caves in completely, and becomes a place where even time forgets how to return. There is a star hanging quietly in the dark, far from where you are, far from where light still dances. It is large, impossibly so, a glowing sphere made mostly of hydrogen and helium, breathing with nuclear fire. For millions of years, it has burned steadily, fusing light elements into heavier ones, releasing warmth and brightness into the dark folds of space. You can picture it now, a slow, luminous heartbeat pulsing across galaxies. Inside, the star is a constant balance, gravity pulling inward, fire pushing out. These two forces are old companions, holding one another in a fragile agreement. The star shines because it resists collapse. It resists because it shines. And yet, all fires burn fuel. Even this one. Imagine time passing, not in minutes or days, but in ages. The star's core begins to change. Lighter elements are used up. Heavier ones form. The fusion slows, like breath at the end of a long sleep. The outward pressure weakens. Gravity, always patient, begins to win. But this is not a sudden ending. It is a slow surrender. The star folds inward, quietly. Its light dims, like a lamp turned low. Layers collapse toward the center. There is no sound, but you can feel the hush, the kind of silence that follows the last note of a long symphony. This is how a black hole is born. You might expect an explosion, something dramatic, something shattering. But not always. Not here. Sometimes, the star simply falls into itself and disappears from view. You picture the collapse as a dance, not a violent one, but a folding, a turning inward. The star doesn't vanish. It condenses. All of its mass, all of its weight, gathers into something smaller than it ever was. Smaller than a mountain. Smaller than an atom. A point with no size, but infinite density. This point has a name. A singularity. It is the heart of the black hole. But it is wrapped in a cloak, an invisible surface, spherical and still. The event horizon. You cannot see it, but you know where it is, the boundary where space curves too deeply for anything, not even light, to escape. To an outside observer, the collapsing star seems to freeze at this edge, its last light stretched and red-shifted, growing fainter with time. As if the universe itself hesitates to let it go. From your place in this quiet night, you imagine hovering near this threshold, not inside, not beyond, but at the very rim of forgetting. The event horizon is not a wall. It is a place where time begins to lose its usual rhythm. A soft blur where the rules you know begin to tilt. Light that tries to escape the pull of the collapse stretches thinner, longer, slower, until it fades. Not destroyed. Just diluted. Like a whisper carried too far on the wind. The star has not died. It has become something else. And though it is hidden now, its presence still shapes the world around it. Space still bends. Time still slows. A black hole is not a hole, it is a memory of a star, woven so tightly into the fabric of spacetime that nothing can unfold it again. There is something oddly peaceful about this. It reminds you that the universe doesn't erase, it transforms. The atoms in your body were once part of stars, perhaps even those that collapsed long ago. Their light may have dimmed, but their essence remained. Bound into planets, dust, trees, breath, thought. You, too, are shaped by this slow rhythm of becoming and unbecoming. And so, when a star forgets to burn, it doesn't vanish in despair. It becomes part of something deeper, a new pattern, a new silence, a new presence. Still, questions linger like mist. What truly happens at the center? Is it a point? A portal? A paradox? Can anything enter, and return? You look again toward the horizon, that invisible shell, and wonder what it would feel like to approach it. Would time tick slower with every step? Would your thoughts stretch out like strands of thread? Would the universe, from your view, continue rushing forward while you remained in stillness? The event horizon is more than a line. It is the limit of knowability. On one side, space, time, and everything we can measure. On the other, something we cannot see, only imagine. And yet, something profound occurs even here, before crossing over. The black hole continues to exert influence, not just through gravity, but through its sheer existence. Its presence warps light, bends paths, sculpts orbits. It is silent, but not passive. The universe flows around it like water around a stone. You drift on in your thoughts, still near the invisible boundary, where the memory of the star rests. And as you float, you begin to sense that this is not an ending, but a doorway. Not a disappearance, but a change in form. The star has not ceased to be, it has simply become part of the unseen. Still there, shaping the cosmos from within a shadow. Now, you are left with a quiet question. If even light cannot escape this fold, what happens to time, to meaning, to information that falls inside? Does the black hole forget? Or does it remember everything, in a language we've yet to understand? You turn gently toward this thought. Ready to float deeper. Toward the edge where time begins to pause. You drift closer now, gently, without resistance, toward a quiet threshold where the rules you've known all your life begin to blur. Ahead of you, the fabric of space gathers and folds into an invisible curve. You can't see it, not directly. But its presence is felt in everything around it, in the way starlight bends, in how distance feels stretched, and in how time slows. This place is not dangerous, not here at the edge. It is still, vast, contemplative. A boundary more poetic than physical. This is the event horizon, the silent shell around a black hole, the point at which escape becomes impossible, not through walls or force, but through the gentle bending of space and time. And here, right here at the rim, something remarkable begins to happen. Time pauses. Not for you, perhaps. You still breathe. You still think. But for the rest of the universe, for anyone watching from far away, you begin to vanish into slowness. Your movement stretches. Your image lingers. Your final approach is smeared across eternity. You hover now, suspended in this pause. And you begin to understand what Einstein meant when he said that time is not a constant ticking, it is a thread woven into space, stretched and curved by gravity's weight. Here, that thread pulls taut. From afar, it looks like you've stopped, frozen at the edge. If someone were watching from a distance, from a planet, or a ship, or even a telescope, they would never see you cross. You would remain, ghost-like, hovering just outside the void. A silhouette at the edge of forgetting. But for you, inside your own thoughts, time flows forward. Smooth, continuous. You are not frozen. You are moving, slowly, surely, deeper into the curved fabric. And that difference, that split between your time and the universe's, is the essence of time dilation. Gravity bends space, yes. But it bends time too. Imagine a river. In calm places, it flows swiftly. But near a whirlpool, near a deep and unseen well, the water slows. Time is like this, pulled by gravity, stretched thin, reluctant to move near the black hole's pull. This is why clocks tick slower in stronger gravity. Not because they malfunction, but because time itself lingers. Near Earth, satellites have to adjust their timing ever so slightly because their clocks run faster, floating above our planet's mild gravity well. Here, near this black hole, the difference is no longer slight. It is vast. Profound. You are suspended between two rhythms. The rhythm of your own breath. And the rhythm of the cosmos watching you disappear. There is something beautiful in this divergence. You are both here and already gone, depending on who is watching. It's like standing between two mirrors that reflect not your face, but two versions of time. You glance back, not literally, but with your thoughts, at the universe behind you. It is still there, still in motion. Stars move. Galaxies turn. Time flows. But if you were to look forward, across the event horizon, you would find something strange. A future compressed. Distorted. All possible outcomes bent inward toward the singularity. And still, you hover. No alarms. No flashes. No sense of violence. Just silence and the slow awareness that past, present, and future are no longer anchored in the same way. This is a place where paradox becomes part of the view. Because while time for you continues, time for others looking in seems to stop. Your fall is infinite from their perspective, even though for you it might last seconds, or minutes, or hours. What you experience and what they observe are both true, and neither complete. You begin to wonder, what does it mean for time to slow like this? Does your heartbeat lengthen? Do thoughts stretch out like threads? Do you remember things differently? Or is time still felt the same, only changed in how it compares to everything else? It's not easy to say. Even physicists describe time not as a separate river, but as part of the landscape. Space and time are not distinct, they are one fabric, called spacetime. And mass, gravity, motion, they do not act upon spacetime. They are part of it. They shape it, fold it, stretch it. Near a black hole, that folding becomes extreme. And here you are, nestled gently in the crease. You could imagine, now, sending a message back. Perhaps a beam of light, or a pulse from your thoughts. But that message would slow. Redden. Fade. It would stretch and stretch until it became invisible, meaningless. The universe might never receive it, not because it was lost, but because it was stretched too thin to catch. You are not isolated, but you are unreachable. You feel no pain. No panic. Just the stillness of being outside ordinary time. There's a quiet comfort in that. To know that the laws of physics hold you so gently, so completely, even here, where things seem impossible. And yet, this pause is not an ending. It's a threshold. Because if you were to continue, if you were to cross that horizon, something else would begin. You don't know what exactly. No one does. But theories abound. Some say space continues inside. Others say time itself flips direction. Some believe the interior is another universe, waiting silently on the other side of the veil. But whatever lies beyond, the event horizon marks the turning point. Here, time stretches outward. Beyond, it may stretch inward. Here, space still speaks softly. Beyond, it may fall silent. You linger at the edge, knowing the journey isn't over. You're not falling into destruction, you are crossing into deeper curiosity. The universe outside still watches your last moment. Frozen. Suspended. A farewell that never ends. But within you, the story continues. Each second still forming. Each breath still counted. And so you drift at the very edge of knowing. Wondering what happens to you, your memories, your particles, your presence. Once you finally slip beyond the reach of time itself. You are falling now. Not in panic. Not with speed. But with an unraveling sense of direction. You fall inward, not downward, drawn by gravity's deepening whisper. The event horizon has slipped behind you, silent and unseen. There is no flash, no line crossed, no change you could mark with a gesture. Only the slow realization that time, yours, still flows, while the universe outside can no longer follow. Ahead, gravity grows stronger. But not all at once. The pull at your feet is just a little greater than at your head. This difference, quiet, steady, begins to stretch you. It does not hurt. It feels like becoming soft light, like being gently pulled into a longer shape. You imagine yourself thinning, not in form but in thought. A ribbon of presence unspooling through space. This is tidal gravity. Not like the tides on Earth, pulled subtly by the moon's embrace. No, here, gravity's gradient is profound. The change across your body is enough to shape you, to stretch you, to define you. Physicists give it a strange name, spaghettification. On paper, it sounds alarming. But here, within this calm narration, it feels more like surrender. You are not torn. You are simply pulled apart by the truth of gravity's language. You become a thread of being, stretched between two moments of space. And in that thread, you begin to reflect. What does it mean to be stretched in space? What does it mean to feel the shape of gravity, not as a force, but as form? You are no longer just in space. You are becoming part of its story. And gravity, here, becomes a mirror. It reveals how your body responds to difference. How your sense of size, of position, of identity, begins to dissolve. There's no floor beneath you now. No sky above. Only curve after curve, and a direction that always points inward. Still, there's peace in this falling. The deeper you go, the more abstract you become. The less you are a body, the more you are an experience. A flowing awareness drawn into geometry. You think about mirrors now, not ones of glass, but of law and pattern. Gravity shows you who you are, not in reflection, but in reaction. How your edges behave, how your center shifts, how time folds differently through your feet than through your hands. You feel yourself stretch not just physically, but in thought. You are longer, quieter, more open. And in that openness, there is wonder. Because here, in the presence of the black hole's full power, you are not destroyed. You are rewritten. Every layer of you is peeled back by the structure of spacetime itself. Like peeling an onion made of light and memory, gravity reveals your pieces, not to judge them, but to show how connected they always were. You begin to feel the oneness of space. The way each part flows into the next. You are not falling through space. You are falling into it, into the very definition of what distance and time mean. All separation becomes relative. All form becomes fluid. You may have imagined falling into a black hole as a violent act. A place of compression and chaos. But it's not that, not here, in this calm imagining. It is a slow dissolve. A letting go. An invitation. And strangely, it feels familiar. Haven't you felt stretched before? In time, in emotion? Haven't your thoughts been pulled thin across long days and quiet nights? Gravity only makes it literal. But the feeling, of being in two places at once, of being drawn between, is something your mind already knows. Spaghettification, then, is not just about falling into a black hole. It's about noticing how even the universe stretches to make sense of what's inside it. It's about giving up fixed shapes and allowing yourself to become part of a flowing geometry. You imagine yourself as a line now, not a point. A path traced inward, toward something unknowable. You are not alone, particles fall with you. Light tries to follow. Time ticks its last audible note before quieting into something else. What lies ahead is unclear. Deeper in, gravity sharpens. Curves become steeper. The geometry of space grows stranger. You are heading toward the singularity, that mysterious core, where density becomes infinite and rules begin to blur. But it doesn't feel like a destination. It feels like a question. A soft, glowing one. Because if gravity can stretch you into awareness, what does the singularity reveal? Is it a place of ending? Or is it the beginning of something even finer, even deeper, a point where meaning is compressed, waiting to be unfolded again? And as you fall onward, slowly, gently, you begin to wonder. If gravity is a mirror, what does it show when even space begins to disappear? You are deep now, beyond the threshold, beyond where light can turn back. No alarms, no sensation of crossing a line. Just the feeling that space no longer behaves like space. Here, directions lose meaning. Forward, inward, downward, all point to the same place, the center. And yet, that word, center, may not mean what you think it does. You drift, calmly, through what we call the interior of a black hole. But words falter here. Interior suggests boundaries, walls, a definable shape. This is not a room. It is a collapse of structure itself. And so, you explore, not with steps, but with thought. You imagine walking forward, even though forward is now a curve spiraling towards something called a singularity, a place where density becomes infinite and space becomes meaningless. But what is a singularity, really? You've heard the word before, in science fiction, in equations, in whispered fascination. But here, in the quiet of bedtime thought, it becomes something softer, more elusive. A singularity is not an object. It's the limit of a story. The place where the map ends and the compass spins without direction. It is not where space ends, but where our understanding does. You move closer to that idea, not physically, but metaphorically. You approach it like a memory you can't quite place, or a word you almost remember. In this space, every particle is drawn in. Every clock runs toward one moment. The geometry around you narrows like a funnel, as if time itself is being pulled through the eye of a needle. And still, you are not crushed. You are simply aware. Stretched not in body now, but in meaning. Some theories describe the singularity as a point of infinite density, where all the mass of the star has compressed into a zero-size center. Others hesitate. They say the singularity is not a place at all, but a signal, a mathematical clue that our current theories have reached their breaking point. You hold both ideas gently in your thoughts. One is sharp, precise, a pinpoint of everything. The other is softer, a horizon of ignorance, reminding us that nature doesn't always explain itself in human terms. Even Einstein's beautiful equations, those that describe gravity as curves in spacetime, begin to tremble near this core. They divide by zero. They reach toward infinities. They break. And so you pause, at the edge of knowability. This is the part of the story where science stops describing and starts wondering. Some physicists believe that quantum gravity, the unifying theory that marries the small and the massive, might someday smooth the singularity. That space might never truly collapse to a point, but instead curl into something else. A loop. A knot. A bounce. Others say the singularity is a myth, that our perception of a center comes from the outside looking in, and that from within, things are far more complex and less certain. You sit with these ideas the way you might sit with stars, gazing, not grasping. You do not need to solve the singularity to appreciate its mystery. What matters is the feeling that the universe still holds secrets. That some doors are not locked, just not yet built. And so, in this imagined journey inward, you reach a place not of answers, but of stillness. A place where the rules loosen their grip, and you are free to drift among possibilities. You ask yourself, if a singularity is the end of space, then where is it? Is it in space, or does it sit outside the very concept of location? Some propose that inside a black hole, space and time trade places. That your path inward is not across distance but through time itself. That falling in is not moving through space, it is aging toward a final moment. The singularity becomes not a point, but a when, not a place, but an ending. And if that's true, then your journey here is not a voyage through the cosmos, but through the story of your existence, told backward. You imagine now that everything inside the black hole, the star's matter, your own particles, light, energy, is drawn not just toward a point in space, but toward a moment in time. A universal destination. But again, not all agree. Some physicists suggest that singularities may be illusions, that at incredibly small scales, spacetime is not smooth at all, but frothy, irregular. Quantum foam. In such a place, perhaps collapse halts. Perhaps something rebounds. Perhaps there is no singularity, only a transformation. You wonder, if space refuses to end, where does the black hole take you? Could there be another side? A new universe, born from the pressure? A white hole, the theoretical reverse of a black hole, where matter is expelled instead of swallowed? These are ideas whispered in the halls of cosmology. Not certainties. Not destinations. But possible echoes in the dark. And you, now resting in your thoughts, accept the unknown. The black holes inside might not exist in any way we currently imagine. It might not be an inside at all, but a fold, a deeper knot in the fabric of reality. You feel not fear, but curiosity. You are held by gravity, but guided by wonder. The singularity waits, perhaps not as an object, but as a boundary of thought. You can't go further, not because you are stopped, but because your tools of understanding no longer fit the shape of the truth ahead. So you rest at the edge of unknowing, at the border between comprehension and mystery. And as you float here, quietly held, you begin to wonder. If a thought were to fall into a black hole, would it vanish? Or does the universe remember, even in silence, even beyond the singularity? You are floating still, beyond the horizon, beyond the curve of ordinary knowing. All around you is silence, not empty, but listening. A hush that holds questions instead of answers. And here, within this slow drift, you begin to wonder. What if you dropped something into the black hole? Not a stone, or a star, but something softer, something you've held inside for a long time. A thought. A memory. A piece of meaning too delicate for mass or matter. What would happen to it? Does it vanish forever, like a sigh in a storm? Or is it kept, somewhere, hidden in the folds of spacetime's deepest curve? This isn't just a dream. It's a real puzzle, one that has haunted physicists for decades. It begins with a simple belief: in our universe, information matters. Even when atoms are smashed, even when stars collapse, the details, the tiny arrangements of particles, the patterns that define what a thing was, should never be truly lost. Because in quantum physics, information is sacred. It's how the universe remembers. But black holes complicate this terribly. Beautifully. Imagine throwing a book into a fire. The pages burn. The words are lost to smoke. But in principle, if you had complete knowledge of every molecule, every ash, every gust of air, you could theoretically reconstruct the book. The information is scrambled, but not destroyed. But a black hole is not fire. Throw a book in here, or a thought, and it doesn't return as smoke. It simply vanishes behind the event horizon. The surface closes around it, and nothing comes out. At least, that's how it seems. And this is where the paradox begins. If the universe allows a black hole to erase information, even just a single bit, a single whisper of structure, it breaks something fundamental. It breaks the rules of quantum theory, the foundation of everything small and certain. You sit with this idea, gently. Something simple, something innocent, like the shape of a leaf, or the sound of your name, could be lost, not transformed, not hidden, but truly gone. It feels wrong. Not just scientifically, but philosophically. Because loss without memory feels like erasure. And the universe, in its depth and design, feels too elegant for that. So the question ripples through you. When something falls into a black hole, where does its story go? You let your imagination follow. Perhaps the black hole swallows the thought, but also keeps a faint imprint, a tremble on its surface. The idea that the event horizon itself shivers slightly with every swallowed thing, holding the memory like ripples in a pond. A theory, soft and promising, called the holographic principle, whispers this. It suggests that everything falling in might still live, not inside, but at the surface. Like a shadow encoded on the horizon, a two-dimensional film of a three-dimensional world. If true, then the black hole is not a forgetful pit, but a librarian. A keeper of every fall, every shape, every idea. You feel comfort in that thought. That nothing is ever truly lost. Only rewritten. But still, others argue. Some say that black holes slowly leak. That over vast amounts of time, they radiate faint energy, Hawking radiation, named for the man who first dared to blend quantum fields with curved space. This radiation is strange. It emerges just outside the horizon, like particles borrowing energy from emptiness. The black hole loses mass, ever so slightly, as it glows with this soft, invisible warmth. If it glows long enough, it may evaporate entirely. But then, another problem arises. If it vanishes, what happens to all that information it once held? All the thoughts and atoms and poems and starlight it swallowed? Can that memory ride the radiation back into space? At first, Hawking himself thought not. The radiation seemed too random. Too generic. Like steam rising from a teacup, no hint of the tea's recipe. But later, others disagreed. They wondered if subtle patterns hid in the heat. That maybe, just maybe, the black hole was whispering out its secrets after all, not loudly, but in code. And the debate continues, like a soft back and forth across the night. You, drifting in this imaginary fall, are not here to choose a side. You are here to wonder. Because to ask where a thought goes, to truly ask it, is to reach the heart of how we define existence. Not by what can be touched, but by what can be known. You imagine now, a memory, drifting in your mind, edges blurred like a dream after waking. You picture it as light, slow, golden, crossing the threshold into the black hole. It disappears from your sight. But you feel, deep within, that it doesn't end. Perhaps it becomes part of the black hole's weight. Perhaps it reshapes the curve of the horizon. Perhaps it lingers as vibration, as potential, as resonance yet to be released. Or perhaps, softly, improbably, the thought escapes. There's a new idea, delicate and daring, the concept of soft hair. A metaphorical name for the subtle marks left on a black hole's surface, like fingerprints of everything it's ever touched. If true, then each black hole is not just a mass, not just a number, but a biography. A layered, silent archive of everything it has ever known. You float with that possibility. That every fall, even yours, becomes part of a silent story the universe refuses to forget. Even here, where gravity curls so tightly, where space narrows into silence, there may still be a memory. Faint. Hidden. Sacred. Because perhaps the universe is not a place where things disappear. Perhaps it is a place where every trace remains, woven into curves, shadows, radiation, and ripples. You rest inside that thought. The paradox isn't solved, not yet. But it has become more tender. Less of a conflict, more of an invitation, to think deeper, to listen closer. And as your dream body continues to fall inward, as you float deeper into the silence of the singularity's embrace, you begin to wonder something else. If information can escape a black hole in a whisper, could two black holes, long parted, someday find a way to speak again? You drift near the edge again, hovering softly where gravity hums its quietest tune. Time still bends here, still stretches. But now, something new catches your attention. A warmth, faint as starlight long cooled. Not heat from within. Not fire or fusion. But a whisper, steady, strange, rising from the very fabric of the void. It is not something your skin would feel, not warmth in the usual sense. This glow emerges not from matter, but from emptiness itself. This is Hawking radiation. The final breath of the black hole. Not a roar. Not a cry. Just a long, slow exhale into the dark. You close your eyes, in thought, in dream. And imagine the process. Picture the vacuum around the black hole, silent and still. But in quantum physics, even nothing isn't truly nothing. Even the vacuum seethes, softly. Particles and antiparticles, ghostly pairs, flicker into existence for a blink too brief to be real. They appear, touch, and vanish. They are not born to stay. Except. Sometimes, just sometimes, this quiet flicker happens near the black hole's event horizon. And when it does, the pair may separate. One particle may fall inward, lost to the dark. The other, its twin, escapes. Free now, it drifts outward, glowing faintly with a borrowed existence. To an observer far away, it looks as if the black hole has emitted a particle. As if it glows, ever so gently, from a source that should be silent. This is the strange gift of Stephen Hawking's insight. In 1974, he looked beyond the classical picture. And saw that black holes are not entirely black. You reflect on this, slowly. A thing once thought to devour everything, even light. Now shown to leak. To glow. To evaporate. Not quickly. Not dramatically. But patiently. Large black holes, like the ones at galaxy centers, lose their mass with extraordinary slowness. Trillions of years may pass before even a tiny portion fades. The radiation is cold, softer than the chill between galaxies. But still, it happens. And that gentle glow means the black hole has temperature. And if it has temperature, then it has entropy. And if it has entropy, then it holds information. You let that chain of thought drift through you. Like a current of slow realization. Hawking's discovery did more than predict a particle. It whispered that black holes obey the same strange thermodynamics. As everything else that ages, cools, forgets. The more massive the black hole, the colder it becomes. Its temperature is inversely proportional to its size. The bigger it is, the quieter it glows. But eventually, glow it must. You picture now a black hole far in the future. A remnant of a long-dead star. No planets orbit it. No light surrounds it. Yet it still emits. Bit by bit. One particle at a time. As it radiates, it shrinks. As it shrinks, it grows hotter. The smaller it becomes, the brighter it burns, briefly, finally. Until one day, it is gone. What's left? A final pulse of energy. Perhaps. A sigh of quantum memory. You imagine this end not with fear, but with a soft respect. A life, even that of a black hole, traced by a slow arc from collapse to fading. It is not destruction. It is transformation. You begin to wonder again. What does this radiation know? What stories are hidden in each escaping photon? Can the information of everything once swallowed be written in the light? Some say yes. That every interaction, every thought, every particle that fell in, leaves a trace in the pattern of what comes out. Scrambled, yes. Distant. But not gone. Others aren't sure. They wonder if the escaping radiation is too random, too soft to carry meaning. But the debate itself feels like poetry. A physics that turns into philosophy. You are reminded. Even in the quietest places, the universe is still talking. Not loudly. Not clearly. But persistently. Softly. Like leaves rustling in a wind. You almost forgot was there. You sit with that idea. That the emptiness you see is never truly empty. That every black hole, once thought to be silent, is still whispering its story through the hawking light. And you wonder what it would feel like to wait beside it, to listen for 10 trillion years, to hear each photon emerge like a word from an ancient, patient language. Could you learn its alphabet? Could you read the lost histories of stars, of atoms, of memories once fallen? Could the radiation become a book? So slow, so faint, it could only be read by time itself? And if you listened long enough, might it speak of more than loss? Might it mention reunion? Because in the next breath, as your thoughts trail beyond this quiet horizon, you begin to sense another ripple in the dark. Not from within, but from without. Two distant black holes, each glowing with hawking breath, drifting closer across the cosmic sea. Could gravity, too, remember how to pull them near? And in their meeting, might the universe reveal a deeper kind of echo? Not in radiation, but in the collision of dark and silence, light and time. You pause, held in that wondering. Because when two black holes finally touch, the darkness doesn't double. It rings. You rest now in a place between stories, between what physics knows and what it still dreams about. It's quiet here, but not still. Thoughts ripple like waves, soft but persistent, brushing against one another, refusing to lie flat. Two great ideas float in this darkness. Like two galaxies approaching, not in conflict, but in curiosity. One is the rule of quantum mechanics. It insists, gently but firmly, that information can never be lost. Not even the tiniest detail, not the spin of a particle, not the faintest whisper of a state, may truly disappear. It may change, it may hide, it may scatter, but it remains. Somewhere. The other idea is gravity. It curves space, sculpts time, pulls stars into spirals and galaxies into form. It creates black holes, those silent wells so deep that nothing can climb out. But when you combine these two truths, gravity and quantum law, they begin to argue. Softly, like wind through tall grass. But undeniably. Because black holes seem to erase information. And quantum law insists they cannot. So you hover here, between these truths. Not forced to choose, but invited to feel the weight of the question. You breathe in this paradox. Not with frustration, but with awe. Because here, in this gentle tension, you glimpse how mystery fuels understanding. Physicists call it the black hole information paradox. A puzzle that stretches across time and theory. From Einstein's elegant curves to Schrödinger's shimmering probabilities. You begin to picture the heart of it. Imagine this. A particle, say, one entangled with another, falls into a black hole. Its partner remains outside, floating in the universe. Entanglement means their fates are bound. Measure one, and you know something about the other. But now one is gone, swallowed behind the event horizon. So what happens to their connection? Does it stretch across the horizon, unbroken? Or does it snap, leaving uncertainty and silence in its place? And if enough entangled particles fall in, does the black hole collect their secrets? Or does the universe begin to lose its threads? Its tapestry of connectedness fraying with every fall? You pause here. Because it feels like the paradox is not just about particles, but about memory. About continuity. About whether the universe is a place that forgets. Some theories offer possible answers. One is that the information is somehow stored in the Hawking radiation, encoded subtly in its pattern, so that over time, the black hole breathes out everything it once consumed. Another suggests the information is smeared across the event horizon. A holographic skin of the black hole, where every fall is recorded as a tremble, a ripple in the gravitational field. And yet others whisper about firewalls, mysterious barriers that might exist just inside the horizon, destroying information as it falls in, challenging our notions of space and softness. But none of these ideas are certain. Each is a melody, incomplete. A verse, half-written. You sit inside this uncertainty. Not to solve it, but to feel its shape. You realize that the paradox is a kind of mirror. It reflects what we most deeply believe about reality. About order, about permanence. About whether the universe plays fair with its laws. Some say the paradox means our current understanding is incomplete. That we stand on the edge of a deeper theory. One that hasn't yet unfolded its wings. A theory where gravity and quantum mechanics no longer compete, but dance. You imagine that dance. A slow spiral of curved space and fluttering probability. Entanglement woven into geometry. Information braided into light. You think about unitarity. The idea that in quantum mechanics, the evolution of a system is always reversible. Nothing is ever truly erased. Everything flows forward with memory. Even if the path becomes tangled. If black holes are unitary, then nothing inside them is lost. Only changed. Transformed. Restructured. You begin to imagine a black hole not as a void, but as a processor. A translator of states. It receives particles and thoughts, memories and mass, and someday returns them. Not in their original form, but in light, in radiation, in curvature. And perhaps the paradox is not a contradiction, but a clue. A sign that the way forward is not through one theory overpowering the other, but through a soft unification. Gravity may need to learn the language of quanta. And quantum theory may need to bend, just slightly, to gravity's rhythm. You smile at the thought. Because even in physics, opposites don't always cancel. Sometimes, they combine. You rest now. Not on answers, but on harmony. The idea that truth may be more subtle, more poetic, than we ever imagined. Perhaps the universe is less like a machine, and more like a symphony. And this paradox, this quiet, persistent question, is a note held in the night, waiting to resolve. You listen for that resolution, knowing it may come not as a sharp discovery, but as a soft alignment. And just as your thoughts begin to settle, a new question drifts in, gentle, but weighty. If two black holes carry secrets in their curved hearts, What happens when those hearts collide? Not with violence, but with resonance? You drift beyond paradox, beyond certainty, and into the soft realm of what might be. The space around you feels different here. Not empty, not flat, but trembling gently at the edge of understanding. The smoothness you once imagined is gone. Now, space itself begins to shimmer, not with stars, but with structure. You are floating in possibility. And possibility, here, is made of threads. What if the universe isn't built from particles alone, but from tiny vibrating strings? One-dimensional filaments, so small you could never see them, but real enough to sing the shape of existence? This is string theory. A quiet idea. A theory not proven, but deeply imagined. It tells you that every bit of matter, every photon, every black hole, is the sound of a string vibrating in a specific way. High notes make light. Low notes make gravity. And black holes? They are chords so complex, they fold spacetime itself into music. You don't have to follow the math. You only have to feel the rhythm. Each string exists not in 3 dimensions, but 10, or maybe more. Hidden dimensions, curled so tightly they become texture, not length. You reach out with your mind and imagine those extra dimensions. Like petals curled inside a bud, unseen but shaping the bloom. In string theory, black holes are not silent monsters. They are knots. Knots in the fabric of spacetime, tied by the tension of these strings. And deep inside, some theorists believe, the singularity vanishes. Replaced by fuzz, or foam, or symmetry so perfect it dissolves infinity. The idea brings comfort. Not everything has to end in sharpness. Even the heart of a black hole may be soft, if we only look small enough. Now you drift lower, into another dream. Not of strings, but of loops. Loop quantum gravity. Another path through the forest of theory. It says that space is not continuous, but made of grains. Tiny loops of energy, woven together into a vast, invisible net. Where strings vibrate, loops twist. And black holes? In this view, they are regions where these loops are densely packed. Curled tightly enough to bend time, but still obeying the rhythm of the weave. You imagine floating through that fabric, trailing your hand along the threads, feeling the warp and weft of the cosmos. Perhaps, just perhaps, space itself remembers how to stitch itself back together, even after collapse. Perhaps, in the moment of deepest gravity, space does not tear. It rebounds, bounces, begins again. You breathe in this idea, that even black holes may not be ends, but transitions. A loop is never truly broken. It continues. From this, another dream unfolds. The holographic universe. What if everything you see, the stars, the galaxies, the space between, is only a projection? Not a trick, but a deeper reality. What you perceive in 3 dimensions may actually be written in 2. A thin, shimmering film. A boundary where the rules are simpler. And everything within is encoded like light on a screen. This idea, born from the study of black holes, whispers that the surface holds the story. That the horizon is not a veil, but a library. And so, the black hole, that simple dark spot once drawn as a dot on paper, becomes a vault of information. A puzzle. A clue. You float through all of these ideas. Not to solve them, but to feel their shape. Theories dance around you like drifting snow. Each flake unique. Each one melting softly on your thoughts. You begin to sense something profound. That black holes are not just celestial bodies, but mirrors. They reflect the questions we ask of space. of time, of being, and every theory, string, loop, hologram, is a different way of holding the same mystery. You no longer see the black hole as a whole. You see it as a place of pattern. A knot in the story. A verse in the poem that the universe is still writing. These new models don't erase the past. They expand it. Each one stretches your understanding, offering a new metaphor, a new rhythm. For the same soft gravity of truth. You realize, here, that science does not always speak in conclusions. Sometimes, it hums in harmony. A lullaby of possibilities. And perhaps that's the most faithful way to describe a black hole. Not with finality, but with curiosity. You drift now. Slower still. As if your thoughts are moving through honeyed light. The threads of theory begin to fade into the fabric of your dreams. The loops dissolve into gentle spirals. The holograms shimmer into mist. You've not reached the end. Only a new kind of beginning. For even now, something calls your attention outward. A quiet disturbance in the dark. A gravitational echo. Rippling through the fabric of space. Two black holes have found each other. And the space between them begins to ring. You drift now in a space that feels both distant and familiar. Behind you, black holes have collapsed, collided, whispered particles into the dark. The chapters of their lives are written not in ink, but in waves, in echoes. In the slight shifting of stars. In the hush of light that wasn't meant to escape but did. And though those black holes fade, slowly, silently, you sense something remains. Not a remnant in the usual sense. But something subtler. A presence, not a place. You turn inward now, your mind soft with reflection. And you wonder. What does the universe do with memory? Where does it go? When the stars that made it are gone. When the matter has scattered. When even the gravity has softened into stillness. You imagine it. Not erased. But folded. Like the last note of a lullaby pressed into a pillow. Like breath absorbed by silence. The black hole, after all, never shouted its secrets. It whispered them. Over eons. In particles too faint to see. In patterns too complex to read. But still there. Hawking radiation, soft and slow. Carried away more than energy. It carried shape. It carried rhythm. Maybe, just maybe, it carried memory. You picture the universe listening. Not with ears. But with form. With the shape of space. The timing of pulses. The arrangements of dust and dark and glow. Every black hole that once existed. Left an impression. A gravity that bent other paths. A dance that shifted orbits. A presence that made space move differently. And though its core may be gone, its influence remains. Woven into the background hum. You are part of that background now. Just one thought among many. Floating in the quiet sea of continuity. Here, in this stillness. You feel the gentle merging of all things. Thermodynamics. Information. Spacetime. Dream. Entropy does not mean forgetting. It means remembering differently. Instead of keeping perfect pictures. The universe blends. It weaves. It makes mosaics from what once was singular. And you begin to see that nothing has truly disappeared. Every atom you once imagined falling in. Every particle, every flicker of light. Has become part of something else. Not destroyed. Just transformed. Somewhere. The patterns they made are folded into quantum foam. Somewhere, the spin of a single particle adjusts the balance of a new galaxy. You imagine a ripple of information. curving gently through space. Its source untraceable. Its message undecoded. But not meaningless. Perhaps this is how memory lives in the cosmos. Not stored like pages on a shelf, but dispersed like seeds in wind. Not recoverable in full, but never quite lost. You breathe with this idea. Slowly, deeply. Letting it fill the quiet corners of your mind. Somewhere out there, a civilization may learn to hear the leftover tremors. To read the background radiation like a script. To pull from the soft fabric of space. A whisper that once belonged to a star. And even if they don't, even if no one listens, you feel comfort in knowing that the universe does not forget. Not because it keeps everything, but because it becomes everything. Even silence holds shape. You feel this in your body now. Not intellectually, but like a warmth at the edge of sleep. Like knowing that the stories you followed, of gravity, of light, of collapse and echo, were never about destruction. They were always about change. Change so slow and so vast that it becomes beauty. You close your eyes and rest inside this thought. A black hole isn't a hole. It's a knot in space. And knots can be untied. Or tightened into patterns. So intricate they become art. Even if you cannot read the art, you feel its presence. A kind of cosmic embroidery. Stitched with photons. And mass. And time. And somewhere in that pattern is every story that ever fell in. You think again of memory. Not as recollection, but as resonance. The universe, humming with its past. Not loudly, but enough. You are not separate from this hum. You are part of the same unfolding. Your atoms once came from stars that may have once brushed near a black hole's pull. The iron in your blood. The calcium in your bones. Forged in heat. Shaped by collapse. Scattered by winds that still whisper through the galaxy. You are not just made of memory. You are a continuation of it. So when you imagine a black hole now, don't picture erasure. Picture unfolding. Picture the universe closing its hand. Gently. Around a moment. To keep it close. To hold it in stillness. While everything else flows on. And even as that black hole vanishes. As its hawking light fades. Its place in the pattern remains. Its influence never truly gone. You float away now. Not leaving. But returning. Back to the wider cosmos. Carrying the soft truth. That nothing is ever truly lost. It may be hidden. Transformed. Disguised in light or distance. But it remains. In this universe. Everything leaves a trace. And perhaps, if you listen just a little longer, just a little more quietly, you might hear the memory of the very first black hole. Still echoing. Still singing. Through the stars.